Yeah, welcome into the Wednesday edition of Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Wednesday morning, live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. We got a fantastic show planned for you today. Robbie Weinstein from 24/7 Sports will join us at 7 o'clock. We'll get into the Vanderbilt Commodores with him, who open up their season this weekend. Teron Davenport, normally at Fridays at 8 o'clock. Today will join us at 8 o'clock, and we'll get his thoughts on the Titans, the 53-man roster, and all sorts of other things that could be happening with the Titans here in the coming days. We had a bet before the show as to whether or not Joe Rexrode would leave himself on mute. I said yes. Rexrode has led me down and is not on mute. Rexrode, good morning. How are you?
Sorry about that, but you got Josh Wiley right.
That's true. I did do that. Although I think we knew that about 2 weeks ago, the way that was headed. Tough camp for him.
Yeah, just and a good, I think a good pickup in Gunnar Helm. I think he's going to be at least a solid player in this league. And then you got DMR. This is an interesting thing. Is DMR was a camp hero last year. Wasn't on the initial 53. Is it possible they could upgrade there?
Could be. Yeah.
I mean, that's one of those spots that maybe that could happen.
Could be. So the big story, Joe, from roster cuts specifically is, everybody was wondering how many wide receivers were the Titans going to keep, right? Was it going to be 6? Was it going to be 7? And 6 ends up being the number. James Prochet does not make the team. I think the goal, according to multiple reports, is to have him make the practice squad and that he could be a part of things maybe even as soon as week 1, and you could call him up and have one of those spots for punt return. But in the meantime, they've got 6 wide receivers on the roster: Ridley, Jefferson, Lockett, Oliver, Io Manor, and DK. So the 6 guys that we wondered if James Prochet would make it. He did not. That, to me, is really kind of the one thing that really stands out as far as the 53-man roster is concerned. There's 11 offensive linemen on the original 53-man roster as well, which is a lot. 3 tight ends, as you mentioned. And, Joe, there are already reports out there, Shy Tuttle could be coming in. So Tennessee fans rejoice. We'll see what that looks like here. Watch the helmets out there, too. We'll make sure nobody steps on those. Or keep Butch Jones away from practice, one of the two things, which is probably always general good life advice.
Don't piss off the helmets, Shy. Do not do it.
Boys, some memories come back from that one.
God, do we have any of that? That's
probably
not. Yeah, if we could find that, that'd be amazing. That presser that day. What do we want from our
media? I don't know. What do we want from our head coach? Not to be some blubbering idiot up there.
Well, now hold on. Now, my understanding, per the upcoming Rob brand, is that Butch Jones is part of a very murderer's row of opponents for a particular.
Yeah, we're going to get into that. Just an absolute, apparently, just murderer's row. Just it's no chance this one team is going to survive. I'm looking forward to it.
Ooh, boy, I tell you. But yeah, the Prochet thing, and that's the thing. It's like, so what you could end up having is like Prochet, if they can get him to the practice squad, and as everybody knows, you have your 46, right? 46 on game day. I always get it. I always mess that up.
It's
46.
I think it's 46.
No, you're right. 46. There's too much.
I actually got it right. Yep. But so DK is on the active roster, but like you have a situation where he's not active on game day, but Prochet is just as a returner. So that is definitely on the table if it works out. If that's indeed what they want to do, you could do that. So we'll see. I mean, I could be wrong, but I just don't know that I'm expecting any NFL teams to be scrambling to go add James Prochet to their active roster.
Yeah, I doubt it. I mean, I guess there's always that chance that could happen, but I would doubt that for sure. Restrepo officially cut as well, so we'll see what his future ends up looking like, and maybe now we can officially stop talking about Xavier Restrepo for the time being. because there's no way he was ever going to make this team. So we'll see what happens on that front and what that looks like there. Joe, really the big story from yesterday is they're going to be without Tyjae Spears for the first 4 weeks at a minimum. He is going to be put on injured reserve to begin the season, which means he will miss the first 4 games for sure. And then we'll see where he's at after that with his high ankle sprain. So, we talked about it at the time when he sustained the injury against Tampa Bay in the preseason. Those high ankle sprains can be something that lingers significantly into the season. And now we know, Joe, that it's going to be at least 4 games that the Titans are without Tyjae Spears. So the running back spot, what do you do in the meantime? They do have 3 running backs on the roster in Pollard, Chestnut, and Mullings. And, of course, Spears is on IR. So we'll see if there's any other moves that come via running back over the next couple of days here. But obviously that is not good, not what you want from Spears to for sure be missing kind of the first part of the season there with the injury.
Right. And so we don't have an answer on how they view Chestnut versus Mullings.
Right.
They just drafted Mullings late though. Certainly he's a live runner, as a power runner. I think Julius Chestnut's pretty good, but so what happens? So when Spears is it just this status quo? Then Spears comes back, and then we find out which one of those guys they choose. Could be, or is it important for them to try to add someone who is a little bit more like Spears in terms of skill set for that first month? That's and again, I don't know. I know like Audric Estime was a guy who had a little success in Denver last year that got released, but he doesn't, to me, fit that bill. So we'll have to see. I thought maybe even there's a chance like a Mims might be kept, but at this point, no.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of people that are out there now, right? So, the Titans could make some changes to this roster and probably will make some changes to this roster throughout the next couple of days here as to what that's going to look like on the 53. So just because, as we mentioned yesterday, the first 53 is out doesn't necessarily mean that that's the way that things are going to be by the time that Denver rolls around here. So we'll keep you updated throughout the day on kind of the latest moves that are made there. But really, that's the big thing from yesterday is Spears is going to be out the first four games. Now, I wonder, like, from a game planning perspective, Joe, does it just mean we're going to see more Tony Pollard, right? Like is that what it's going to end up meaning? Is maybe in a perfect world, you wanted to, I don't know if split is the right word, but make Spears be out there a significant amount. Like, I don't know that I've ever believed that they're going to do some 50-50 split between Pollard and Spears, but there is a skill set that Spears brings to the table, and I think you can utilize it in the passing game. And I think there are situations that make a lot of sense for him to be out there on the field. With him not available, does a Mullings or a Chestnut take that role? Do they go get somebody, as you mentioned, on the waiver wire to come in and play that role? Or are we just going to see a whole lot of Tony Pollard the first 4 weeks of the season? That's kind of what I'm curious about.
Yeah, well, I think definitely, we're going to see a whole lot of Tony Pollard. And some of those different scenarios could happen, but I definitely believe in that. In fact, I had my first fantasy draft last night with the athletic folks in Detroit, and they include me. And I took Tony Pollard. I took him as my third back, but like pretty high, like maybe the 8th round, maybe or something like that. So I mean, that's right, baby. That's Tony with a capital T.
That's
okay,
right.
Not with a low T. All right.
This is a low T alert.
So no, I think he's going to get it a lot. And that's the thing. Like, okay, if nothing ever happened with Tyjae Spears, would we be right now looking at a situation where he actually was so good? It's like, oh yeah, he's actually gonna have a little bit more work, or basically just it's okay, great. So he's a third down back. I mean, I think maybe a little more than the third down back, but I'm with you. I don't think the 50-50 thing was ever real. And part of that is because Pollard's good. And I do think this offensive line is built to pound the football a little bit. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a huge part of their success this year. Like Tony Pollard having a 12 to 1,400 yard season.
We're off and running today on Robby and Rexrode, taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Ian and I are trying to keep it together back here. Your thoughts on the Titans on 615-737-1025, our phone number. Something made official yesterday with roster cutdown day that Titans fans are familiar with and have got to be tired of hearing, and we'll get into that coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Wednesday morning as your thoughts are rolling in on the text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We'll have another spot in the Fantasy Football League, the Robby and Rexrode Fantasy League, to give away later in the program. Take your thoughts in the meantime, 615-737-1025. Rexrode people are very excited about your analysis of the offensive line and the running game.
That's pound with a capital P.
Boy.
Pound town.
Logan says the low T Titans equipped the pound. Hell yeah, let's get after it.
Yeah, boy.
See how they run the ball. See how it goes. Starting against Denver coming up. But yeah, I feel like they should be built to run the ball out there. We'll see how this this offense shakes out there on that front. Joe, I can guarantee you there's a conversation that Titans fans are tired of having. But boy, it's time to have it again with this recent round of cuts. We have talked so much over the last couple of years about the last 3 draft classes with John Robinson, right? In 2020, 2021, and 2022. And how you got basically next to nothing out of those draft classes. And that's a large reason why the roster is where it is. Well, you can start to put 2023 in that list as well. Let me just read you the draft class the Tennessee Titans had in 2023. Peter Skoronski. Hey, all right. 11th overall. It took a guard at number 11. Maybe not going to be living up to that spot, but he's at least a starting good player on the offensive line. And then after that, you got Will Levis, who is out for the year with surgery, and the Titans have already discarded and moved on from in terms of being the future starting quarterback for the team. Tajay Spears, who is not going to be available first 4 games of this year. Josh Wiley, who just got cut yesterday, who they took in the 5th round. Jalen Duncan, who just got cut yesterday, who they took in the 6th round. And Colton Dowell, who was cut earlier in camp, that they took in the 7th round. So you're talking about, other than Skoronski, Joe, they're not going to get anything from this draft class to begin the season. And then we'll see what it looks like with Spears later in the class. But that one is starting to fall apart as well on the Titans when you went first to 2023.
Yeah, it's a bad class, which of course follows up 3 to finish John Robinson's tenure. So when I judge, judging these classes, to me, it is important, I think, to like emphasize the first 4 rounds,
I would agree.
And so, like Wiley was a 5th, Duncan 6th, Dowell 7th, whatever. They didn't have a 4th that year. Spears, still he is a guy. He's going to play this year. I mean, I don't think that he has warranted a 3rd round pick by any means, but then obviously, like I said, Skoronski. I mean, I think Skoronski is on his way to being a good player. Am I overstating it?
I think good. Yeah, I don't know that he's ever going to be great, which is kind of what you want him to be when you take a guard there. But yeah, good.
Yes, yeah. The draft, yeah, the where he went will probably never be looked upon as, ooh, great move, Titans. But yeah, he's on his way. I mean, he's a solid player. So there's that draft. Now let's go to the 2024 draft. J.C. Latham, Tavondre Sweat, Cedric Gray, in light of his camp and what he might be doing this year. Jarvis Brownlee. Then that's Brownlee's a 5th rounder, and then 6, 7, 7. You got Jaquan Jackson, who's gone, but you have James Williams and you have Jalen Harrell, who, by the way, made the team yesterday. Yeah. 7th rounders. So now, what's the difference between those drafts? Let me tell you what the difference is. Mike Vrabel was part of the 2023 draft. He was not part of the 2024 draft.
That is true.
Just saying.
Ran cooking?
Well, I mean, did the regulator come off the frying pan?
I don't know. Maybe so. I mean,
get Vrabel out there, and all of a sudden Rand's out here like, okay, I've got I stir fry this in my wok. I mean, I'm just saying, it's interesting.
It's interesting.
Discuss amongst yourselves. It's interesting.
It is interesting. I mean, we'll see what Sweat brings to the table this
year.
1
week we're going to stink, and this guy sucks, and then I suck.
I remember that was such a great one. That was a great press conference. What a day that was. James Williams, we'll see what he looks like. But like, to your point, the fact that Williams looks like he's going to play the role that he's going to play this year with the Titans, whether it's starting or not, he's going to be in there a lot. Jalen Harrell just made the team. Now, I can already hear Titans fans being like, yeah, Jalen Harrell made this team because they don't have edge rushers. Like no one can rush the passer. And it's like, okay, that's fair.
He's 7th round pick though.
He is, so, exactly.
I mean, that's true.
We'll see what that looks like from his but like Brownlee, obviously going to be a starter for them this year. Gray or Williams will be a starter. Sweat's going to start. Latham's going to start. Like it has the makings last year of a pretty good draft class. We'll see what ends up happening on that front. But it's about darn time that they get a pretty good draft class, Joke. I mean, we're talking 2020, 2021, 2022, and 2023, where it's rough. And, I saw some Titans fans talking about that yesterday, and they're like, there's a lot that's gone wrong here, and you can point back to some decisions from Amy Adams Strunk. Obviously, you can point to the A.J. Brown trade. There's a lot of things that you can point to. But probably more than anything else, it's like when you fail on that many drafts in a row, you end up being the worst team in the league. Like those two things are not – it's not a coincidence that the Titans were the worst team in the league last year when you talk about just how many drafts in a row that have just been total zeros for the most part from them.
Right. Yeah. I mean, 4 in a row is going to kill you. Again, like so. And we talked about many times after the 23 draft, it's just going to be defined by Levis, right?
Right.
Like Levis works out. Yeah, you can live with whatever else happens. If he doesn't, you probably can't. And so that's 4 straight. Yeah, because obviously 22, you get McCreary out of there, but yeah, very little out of those 4 straight drafts. And so I'm sort of joking on the Vrabel thing, but I do feel like there's maybe some truth to you have this awkward. You guys are paired together,
Yeah.
I mean, think about that draft night. You got Rand scolding people for not just celebrating this wonderful night, and Vrabel like, "This is the best night in their life." What? I mean, like you probably had people probably on very different pages in some cases, right? With no real clear, like this person is in charge. You know what I mean? Like, it was a very poorly put together situation. And then last year, Vrabel's out of the picture. And I mean, I think we might be talking about a pretty good 2024 draft class, and obviously we'll see on 25. But you have 3 pass catchers in the 4th round, all of whom 2 of them I think will absolutely be playing as rookies and mattering. And I mean, we'll see on the obviously it's going to be all about Cam Ward, but it does look like there's some possibility that the drafting is going to maybe dig them out of this a little bit. The last 2.
Well, it's going to, yeah, like it for sure on that front. Like there's some positive signs from 2024 and some early positive signs in 2025. Now, granted, they've not played a football game yet in 2025. So I need to see it out on the field in the regular season when things actually matter. But I would say, yes, it's fair to be encouraged by all that. Now, I'll also say in 2024, right? Like they did draft J.C. Latham to be their franchise left tackle, and a year later he's on the right side, and we'll see what that looks like for him this year. Sweat, I think, is going to be a good player in the National Football League, but you did take him 38th overall. So you need to see him get after the quarterback more than he did last year. Cedric Gray, I'm encouraged by what I saw in the preseason. Can he do it in the regular season and stay healthy? So, the jury's still out on 2024. There's a lot of questions left to answer there. But at least, Joe, you feel like there's a foundation there where you can look at it and you could see it developing into something. Whereas, I mean, look, let's be honest here. Like in 2022, 2021, like, we were talking about Farley before he ever stepped on the field. Like, was he ever going to be healthy enough to play in the NFL? Burks was kind of his own thing of just the injuries that just stockpiled on him. And it was never just one thing with Burks. It was always, well, here's a concussion, and here's a knee, and here's a shoulder, and here's a collarbone. It just kind of stockpiled on him at that point. So you at least are encouraged by last year's class and the very, 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 very early signs of this year's class that maybe things are starting to get a little bit better.
Right. Yeah, 2024 could still be like a blah class.
Right.
It's still better to have a bunch of guys who are on the field for you, who are good enough to play.
Absolutely.
Than not. That's an improvement, but yeah, are there actual difference makers? Latham and Sweat, obviously, both of them have to be that. I'm fairly optimistic about Latham, based on especially how he came back this camp, and I just think I think he's got a chance to be pretty freaking good. Sweat is a huge, I think, for this team, and also it's a big deal moving forward. Like, is he going to be one of those actual difference makers? And like you said, sort of validate what was a bit of a reach per per the draft, the draft profiles of profile of him. The off the field stuff that was all the talk has not been any sort of thing. But is he going to be in game shape and actually out there, disrupting consistently? I mean, you saw it some last year, but I don't think nearly enough.
615-737-1025, our phone number, 615-737-1025. We'll continue to take your thoughts on the Titans. Got a lot of those to get to. We will address that coming up next. Plus, another spot to give away in the Robby and Rexrode Fantasy Football League. We will do that next as well. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Later today on ESPN 94.9 The Fan, the Sounds taking on Charlotte at First Horizon Park with the first pitch at 6:35. Coverage also available on the Game Nashville app and at theGameNashville.com. Sounds baseball on ESPN 94.9 The Fan, presented by Twin Peaks and Family Leisure. Taking your thoughts on the Titans. We'll be joined by Robby Weinstein at 7 o'clock. We'll get into Vanderbilt with him, the buzz high around Diego Pavia and the Vanderbilt football program. So we will get into that. Come up here in about 30 minutes. Right now, taking your thoughts on our phone and text lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Wes in Clarksville saying, maybe we've got a huge scouting problem with the Titans. Says, what's the last player that we've had that was just an okay player, but then we turned him into a great player? It doesn't happen very often with the Titans. Man, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, like the last person that they drafted that has turned into a great player that maybe the profile wouldn't suggest that they would be that.
So like a middle round pick?
I guess, yeah, that's kind of how I view that. Yeah. Like, I wouldn't view Derrick Henry as that, winning the Heisman Trophy and being drafted in the second round.
No. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, third rounder.
That kind of feels like a great find, though, more than anything else.
Yeah. I mean, Amani Hooker was a fourth rounder in 19. David Long was a sixth rounder in 19.
Yep.
Again, we talked about that draft. Nate Davis in third. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm sure you could look at any of the good teams in this league and find some examples of that, but I still think it's hitting on the picks that are supposed to be good players, or whiffing that has really hurt the Titans, right? At the very top of these drafts. Again, Burks, Farley, Wilson, incredible run.
I mean, even like a Darrington Evans in the third round where you just got nothing from. Like there's been way too many of that's going on with the Titans.
Monty Rice in the third round.
Yeah.
Dylan Radins in the second round. Petit Frere
brutal
in the third round. Yeah, it has been. It explains where they are. And you can, and certainly there's been some bad free agent signings too. You can lipstick that pig up a little bit in free agency. I mean, free agency is important, but it's drafting. Go look at any of these teams that are high level of success right now. I mean, most of them have a high drafted quarterback who is leading them, which of course the Titans hope they found too. And if that clicks into place, and I bet you a lot of other things start to look better.
Ed on the text line says, every October in my neighborhood, there's a bulk pickup week where I unload my garage to the curb. Before it gets picked up, people come over and pick through and take what they want. That pretty much sums up waivers. Talking about the Titans having the number one spot on the waiver wire. Yeah, I mean, we'll see. Like, I do think there are certain positions, Joe, on the waiver wire that you can find useful players. And I think running back's one of them, right? Like, I think there are some running backs that get released that can come in and play meaningful football for you. I'm not saying that there's a running back that's released that's going to come in and be Tony Pollard, but there are guys that could come in and give you some carries. I mean, look, we've had people today on the text line bring up Deontay Foreman, right? Like, they brought in Deontay Foreman off the street, and he ended up being a pretty good player for them while Derrick Henry was out. So, like, I think running back is a position that you can find, like, somebody to come in off the waiver wire and help you. Like, people keep talking about edge rusher. Like, really, really good edge rushers and useful edge rushers. Like, very, very rarely, Joe, do those guys get sent packing, get put on the street where you could just bring them in and they could come in and produce for you. Like, I just don't – I personally do not have a high expectation that the Titans are going to bring in somebody off the waiver wire at edge rusher, and you're going to turn around in October and that player is playing meaningful snaps for them.
No, edge rushers with pulses are on teams.
Yeah.
You find some depth. But the unsexy and important part of this to defend the waiver wire is, we just had Chad Graff just wrote a story about the Patriots, and it was like basically the Patriots have gotten themselves now to where they have a pretty good starting lineup, but they have no depth. And if you follow this league, I mean, what did Vrabel used to say? You had two and a spare. The depth of your roster is critical. I mean, look, we saw a Titans team get the number one seed largely because they had some pretty good guys, and in some cases because they did a pretty good job of just grabbing guys off the street. But they had some depth too that they leaned on. And so I actually think the waiver wire could be pretty helpful for this team. And again, not in the sexy, oh, here comes a star into town, but they still are a long way away in terms of having enough. I mean, how many positions do you feel good about their depth? I feel pretty good about their safety depth. Feel pretty good about that.
That might be it.
It's like it really is. Like, look, I think Sweat Simmons could be dynamic this year, and then there's guys. I would absolutely not be surprised if they can get a guy at that position that would upgrade their depth, for example. So that's where it's important.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going through all the positions in my head right now. I think that's it. I think safety is the one where you feel pretty good about the depth. Like, other than that, you're one injury away at basically every spot from being like, whoa, they're in some big trouble there.
And I don't know. And look, maybe the offensive line depth, but there are some guys that are kind of unknowns.
Yeah, we'll see.
There now. They've changed that out a little bit. I mean, I think it's frankly
Blake
to
Hance.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, like to me, it's a good sign that Jalen Duncan is gone.
I would agree.
I understand that he got better, but he's not a very good player, and he's made that clear. So to me, him being bounced in favor of other guys is potentially a positive sign for their depth at that spot. And as we know, that is a critical place to have depth. I do think that like Levin is a decent option for until Cushenberry comes back, for example. But I don't know about most of the other guys.
PK was really high on Jackson Slater and thinks he may end up turning into a good player down the road. Maybe not this year, but down the road.
He looks
for the
physical.
Titans. Yeah. So, that would be great is if, hopefully you don't have to see it this year and the offensive line stays healthy. But I mean, we know inevitably at some point along the way in a 17-game NFL season, you're going to have to make some adjustments on the offensive line, and you're going to have some depth out there. So it would be awesome if, like, Blake Hance or a Jackson Slater or Crenshaw Dixon or whoever, like, stepped in and you felt okay about having those guys in there. I mean, it's been a long time, Joe, since they've had a quality starting offensive line, much less some depth to it. So if in 1 year you felt good about a little bit of both of that, that'd be a huge step in the right direction.
Yeah. And if it gets to that, to where they look good as a starting unit, and then again, inevitably you're going to have to see some depth, and it looks pretty good, then you're probably also going to remind yourself they do have Bill Callahan.
Yeah,
I mean, like that's supposed to really pay off for you. They had one bad year, but it could still pay off for you. People on the text line, one asking when Robinson drafted the quarterback from Hawaii. That was Cole McDonald. That was that glorious 2020 draft. Other depth guys people throwing out there. Cortland Finnegan, of course, is a great example. 7th rounder. Jarrell Casey thrown out there. Was a 77 overall. Alex from Montreal says, I think Skoronski can be a Pro Bowl player. It seems you guys are not that high on him. I'm not saying that's impossible, but like from what we've seen right now, do you think Pro Bowl?
No, not to what we've seen to this point. I would also say, Pro Bowl has lost a little bit of its meaning to me over the years too. Now, I like traditional earned it on the field Pro Bowl. Is kind of how I view that.
Yeah, if he's the fifth,
the fifth alternate,
then whatever. But,
right.
But to that point, what we consider a Pro Bowl player.
I mean,
Pro Bowl level player.
I won't totally discount that possibility, but I think it will take a significant improvement from what we've seen from him to this point. I've said this many times this offseason. I thought toward the end of last year, he was pretty good. Like I thought he got to a spot at the end of last year. And if you look at some of the PFF numbers, it shakes out this way. He got pretty good. I also thought, Joe, at the beginning of last year, he was borderline a disaster out there. So what is he this year, right? Like, can he put together an entire season of consistent, reliable play? How big of a deal is it to have Dan Moore on his left side and Cushenberry on his right? Like, if they can all stay relatively healthy and build up some continuity there, what is he? Because if he's, if Skoronski is more of what we saw toward the end of last year and he can build on that, then I'll give him a shot to turn into a pretty good player. I still don't know that he's going to be that like yearly all pro contender that you really want one of those guys to be if you're drafting them 11th overall.
Right. It's I got to see it. I think there's good signs. the end of last year is a positive sign. He looks to be. I mean, even in limited like preseason action, there's been a couple, a few plays you're like, man, I mean, he can be a mauler. Again, that's why I think that this line is built to run the ball. But a consistent guy who's like a difference maker like that, like even like the Zeitler here in kind of the twilight of his career.
Yeah.
He had some time in this league where it's like, okay, that guy makes a difference consistently guarded. Skronsky hasn't done that yet. Is it true that the last Hall of Famer this franchise drafted is Bruce Matthews, 1983? I guess that is true, huh?
I mean, I'm running through that in my head. I think probably, yeah. And now Derrick Henry's going to break that, but yeah.
Yes. Yeah, John Robinson will have a gold jacket on his draft record with Derrick Henry, but that's still way too long.
So, Joe, we have talked about all week how we are going to be giving our fantasy football spots away in different ways throughout the week. And it is time here in the 6 o'clock hour, number one, to show some love to our 6 o'clock hour folks. And number two, I think, Joe, to show some love to some people who are very loyal to us and have been with us for a long time. We really enjoy people who interact with us on our YouTube chat, and our YouTubers are consistent. They're out there. They're reliable. The chat's always flowing. So we want to reward those people with a nice opportunity here to gain a spot in the Robby and Rexrode Fantasy Football League. So this is a YouTube-only contest. And again, don't get mad. We'll have another opportunity tomorrow and two more opportunities on Friday for you to get in the Robby and Rexrode Fantasy Football League. But on YouTube, if you're in the chat, the first person to type "tighten up" into the chat wins a spot in the Robby and Rexrode Fantasy Football League. We've got our draft next Wednesday night. We would love for you to be there in person. It is not required. It is highly encouraged that you're there in person. So the first person in the YouTube chat to type "tighten up" will win a spot in the Robby and Rexrode Fantasy Football League. We'll continue the conversation on the Titans coming up next. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Wednesday morning. Robbie Weinstein from 24/7 Sports will join us at 7 o'clock. We'll get into some Vanderbilt football with him. Joe, we got some controversy brewing on the YouTube chat.
Oh, my goodness.
I threw it out there that a fantasy football spot was to be given away in the YouTube chat. And I said, if you say tighten up, first person who says it gets it. Well, Liam on the YouTube chat says tightens up. He was first, but he did not say tighten up. Jared Morris was second, who did say tighten up and got the words properly. So I was going to put it out there as like a vote as who deserves to get this spot. But Liam, the original poster, has come back in the YouTube chat and is telling me to give it to Jared. So that's what I'm going to do, Joe. Jared Morris, the winner today of the Robby and Rexrode Fantasy Football League spot. Jared, if you will text in your name, your number, your email, and we will get in touch with you. But another spot taken up in the Robby and Rexrode Fantasy Football League. Some people very upset on the text line that we have done this via YouTube. Don't get mad. 3 more spots to give away this week. But we have to give some love every now and then to our YouTube chatters.
I want winners.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like what you're doing this year, man. Kind of, keeping people on their toes. I would have voted for Liam to get in. It's the spirit of the message is there.
The spirit is, but I feel like you got to be correct.
Yeah. I mean, also, I guess, do we care because Liam had his Titan. It was a Titans, but it had low T. When Jared had upper, I think Liam might be a little bit more accurate there, but I don't know. It doesn't matter, Jared.
Look,
congratulations.
I was totally willing to put it to a vote, and then Liam conceded the competition in the YouTube chat. So I feel it's only right after he did that to give the spot to Jared Morris. So there we go.
Viking Matt says, that's okay. I don't need a 6 fantasy league. LOL. Man, I tell you what, I have 3 right now. Like I said, I did a draft last night with the Athletic. I get excited about ours. Kaharski won't let me out of the Titans Media League one. He won't let me out.
Why is that?
Well,
you could just take yourself out.
Well, yeah, I'm like, just give it to someone who's on the beat, like the other people. Like, there's plenty of people who aren't in that league who cover the Titans on a daily basis. And he's like, I do you a favor. No, you're in. I'm like, well, I don't want to be in. I mean, I like all those people, but switch it up, man. 2 to me is the max. I personally you get to 3 and it's just too much. It's just too much.
I mean, we did get a vote from Ed on the text line. Like maybe a tiebreaker would be the person to pick how many days you've had gout this year, like the closest number.
Wow. Thank you for bringing gout back.
Well, I'm just I don't know that it's going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, what does that mean? Like, my foot kind of hurts a little bit. I don't know that I have it. Like
get the needle. Bring out the shot.
Full blown gout. There's a lot of gray area in there.
Josh says that Liam should at least get a signed sock from Rexrode because that's what he would want. Get you a nice signed sock from Joe.
Gout sock.
I think I have a foot thing.
I give you a sock that I wore during the absolute throes of gout. How about that?
That'd be great. Really looking forward to that.
Never watched it.
We did get a question from LD from McMinnville on the text line earlier, Joe. Have you seen the Tannenbaum take on ESPN about the Titans? And LD wondering if Tannenbaum has had a recent head injury. He said, for those who missed it, that Cam Ward was going to be the best quarterback in the AFC South and that he was going to lead the Titans to an AFC South title this year. I think he said that on First Take yesterday. So, Joe, your thoughts on what somewhat friend of the show, Mike Tannenbaum, has thrown out there, that the Titans will have the best quarterback in the division this year and that Cam Ward in year 1 is going to lead them to a division championship over the Houston Texans.
Apologies again to Chase, but talk about a hot take. Now, this is why we need the term hot take. Mike Tannenbaum is kind of, in general, why we need the term hot take, because, my God, is that guy just spin him out. He's out there he's shooting lasers with some of these takes. But 2 years ago at this exact time, at the end of August, if someone's like, CJ Stroud is leading the Texans to the seat. We're all laughing. And last year, people say it about Jaden Daniels and what he's going to do with the Commanders. We're all laughing. And I'm not saying that Cam Ward is going to do that. I don't think he has the team in front of him to do that. But I can. Here's the thing, and I don't know. I did not really hear his rationale. I just saw that was his take. Like, I could make the case that everybody stinks in this division because the Houston now, like what? Cam Robinson's on the block, the trading block. Their offensive line could be terrible.
Yeah.
And if it is, they scapegoated Slowick last year, the OC, who the year before was the golden boy. I mean, like, I think their defense makes their floor higher than everybody else. And look, Stroud is good, but I don't know. I'm not convinced that they're like much better than like a 9-8, 8-9 kind of team. So from that perspective, I still don't see the Titans getting to that point. But from that perspective of the entire division stinks, maybe it's not totally a scorching.
Well,
take.
maybe. I mean, look, and he did bring up the offensive line for Houston as a part of this discussion, right? So, between the different things he was on yesterday, he had Orlovsky looking at him like he lost his mind. He had Ryan Clark looking at him like he lost his mind. Like, I get it. From just the logical standpoint, it would take a lot of things to happen, I think, for that to be the case, for this to shake out. Like, I still think, laugh if you will. I'm like, Jacksonville's got a better roster than the Titans do right now. We'll see how it ends up playing out and if Liam Cohen is actually any good as a head coach. The Colts have Daniel Jones as their quarterback, so it's hard for me to get very excited about that. And if it's not Daniel Jones, it's going to be Anthony Richardson. So I think there's a big limitation as to what they can be. Like, to me, it really does. Like, it comes down to Houston's offensive line, because if Houston's offensive line is serviceable, I like some of the weapons they've got at wide receiver. I really like Stroud, and I love their defense. Like, I think that's what it's going to be. Like, that's probably something we don't talk about enough. Houston's defense is going to be really good. So I think it's going to take a lot for the Titans to even challenge for that. Like, it would be Cam Ward. It would be Cam Ward being unbelievable. And that basically, to me, is what Tannenbaum is kind of saying. Like, he thinks Cam Ward is going to be really, really good in year one. And I hope that's the case, but I think there's a lot of things around him that are going to make that challenging.
Yeah. And look, like, again, we just have not seen him on the field with a game plan at his disposal. At his disposal, not as disposable. Might be a disposable game plan.
Could be.
But we just haven't seen. You've seen glimpses of the talent and some good stuff with the intangibles, but hey, until we know that he's not going to be great, keep an open mind. By the way, speaking of Chase, Robby, I texted them because, like, Big Joe screwed up some song lyrics for Ashford and Simpson, "Solid as a Rock," and Chase said that I'm so mean to some people in the text line that they have tattled on me.
Really?
Have you heard this?
No. What have they said?
I want to know which of you crybabies is going to Chase rather than just handling the business here. I don't even think I'm not that mean.
You get a little heated on the text line sometimes.
Sometimes I'm kind of mean.
I mean, it's just a long fuse on display again. That's what it kind of boils down to.
Well, like I told them, I'm just going to be meaner on the text line. I haven't really employed that in the first hour, but watch out, text line.
Yeah, better
don't go crying to my boss. We can handle this amongst ourselves.
Robby Weinstein from 24/7 Sports will join us coming up next. Vanderbilt opening their season this weekend, and the excitement is palpable out there. People are fired up about Vanderbilt football. We'll get into that with Robby coming up next. This is Robby and Rexrode 102.5 The Game. Hour number 2, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Robby Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Wednesday morning. Vanderbilt opening their season this weekend. College football, mercifully, is here. And to help us talk more about that, we head to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. And welcome in our friend Robby Weinstein from 24/7 Sports. Robby, good morning, buddy. How we doing?
Hey, I'm good. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the season kicking off, and obviously not the most exciting first opponent for Vandy and Charleston Southern, but there are still some storylines that especially like, hey, we get to see this new stadium in action, which at least is going to be kind of interesting.
Yeah, going to be really interesting. So, Robby, let's just start with kind of the buzz around the team. Vanderbilt fans very excited about this group, understandably so, based on what we saw last year, particularly from Diego Pavia at quarterback. What's kind of your sense from being around the team of, just the energy level, the excitement level, and the opportunity to build on what we saw last year, which was obviously an incredible year for them?
It's pretty high. It starts with the quarterback, right? Like, I know that obviously from the outside you hear all this stuff about, hey, we're planning to, our goal is to win a national championship. Our goal is to make the college football playoff. And you and I know that that's probably not realistic for them. That's certainly not my prediction for the outcome of their season, but I do think they, have some internal buy-in on that. And I think you see that the practices are, relatively intense, certainly like compared to a couple of years ago, the offensive line, for instance, these guys are pushing a lot of sleds all practice long, and they're really, actually working hard all practice. And I think, everything within that program sort of flows through, or, is like kind of colored by Diego Pavia's personality. So for sure, I mean, it's definitely a change up, right? Compared to the past, where Vandy has this swagger about them that, I'm kind of not used to seeing. How many wins exactly does that translate into? I don't know, because obviously they play a pretty tough schedule, but it's definitely a different team. I mean, it's by far the deepest and most talented roster that they've had since I've covered the team full time, going back to 2020. But again, pretty much every SEC team is talented and deep.
Where are you seeing that the most, Robby? Like, where do you think this team might take the biggest jump in terms of like a position group or part of the team this year?
The O-line and the D-line. The D-line was already pretty decent last season, at least against the run. But, I mean, if you look, I was comparing depth charts to the 2012 and 2013 teams under James Franklin. Kind of a different era, certainly. But, I mean, they were playing offensive linemen back in that 2012 and 2013 seasons that, were about 300 pounds or even under 300 pounds. And then you look today, and they've got a much bigger O-line. The right tackle, Bryce Henderson, is 6'8", 325, and he had actual success at South Dakota, which is a good FCS program, a top 5 team last year, and they spent a bunch of resources to bring in a bunch of guys who presumably, sounds like we're all paid, into the 6 figures, right? Because these are established players coming in through the transfer portal. Then you look at the D-line, and they've got, I believe, I want to say 6 defensive tackles on the depth chart who are 300 plus pounds. So, I mean, size and weight aren't absolutely everything, but I've been at practice, and I do think these guys are decent football players. It's not like an Alabama type of, or even a Tennessee type of roster in terms of talent, but the pure size on the line of scrimmage, definitely not something that you're used to seeing from Vandy. I mean, I remember when Clark Lee got there, Davion Davis was, one of the better players on the team. He was a defensive tackle, and he was kind of twitchy. He was a little bit disruptive. Not a bad player. He was like 280 pounds. So it's definitely a different type of team in terms of pure size.
So, Robby, you brought up Pavia, and obviously we've seen him everywhere this offseason, on Paul Feinbaum, all across the media, talking about, national championships and all those things. I'm just curious, from your perspective on the field, what does he do as an encore this year after we saw just how electric he was, particularly, running the ball? He did some deep shots last year. And then injury was a problem toward the end of the season. He looked healthier in the bowl game where he just lit up Georgia Tech. So assuming health this year, which is a tough thing to do as we sit here on Wednesday, August the 27th, how do you think he can follow up what he did last year? Can he even be better than he was last year?
I think he can. I mean, you compare his camp this preseason to last year. You know, the odd thing is that he really didn't play very well in preseason camp last year. Like, it was clear that he was going to be the starter, but I don't know. Some of it was that they ran a really vanilla offense camp last year, but he didn't really play that great. And I think he has had a really good preseason camp. He's probably, in my opinion, he's always been a better passer than probably advertised. He does obviously have a lot of passes batted down at the line of scrimmage because he's like 5'9", and that's an issue. But I do think, especially if he gets better pass protection this season, you know, that can really help him. And then they tried to add some wide receivers. They brought in a couple guys from the transfer portal, and Trent Hudson and Trey Richardson. And then they moved Martell Height over to offense, at least partially. So if they get better wide receiver play, that'll help a lot too, because, you know, one of his worst games statistically was against Auburn, where I believe he completed fewer than 50% of his passes. But if you watch the tape, his wide receivers aren't getting open at all in that game. So I think the better talent around him can definitely help him elevate his game. And I think he has probably improved his, you know, in terms of polish as a quarterback as well. But to your point, I will be curious to see, you know, I know that we're assuming good health, right? But man, I mean, if you compare the tape against Virginia Tech and how he was running the ball compared to LSU, he broke off a long run against LSU where it looked like he was running slow motion. I was at the game and I'm like, oh my God, this guy can't move. So I am really curious to see if there's a way to manage that, because you just can't. This guy can't get hurt because the backup quarterbacks were really bad in preseason.
Yeah, and sometimes his mindset is his worst enemy, right? I mean, that's
absolutely
like you're not gonna change that. You don't want to change that, but also every once in a while, go ahead and slide or get out of bounds. Eli Stowers, is he a legit first round talent? I know he's been a little bit banged up too, and I guess said he thinks he's going to play, or it's looking like he's going to play in this opener. But how good is he?
Yeah, I mean, as a receiver, he's probably, you know, him and Max Clare from Ohio State are the two best in college football. I think he's improved as a blocker, at least based on the spring, and I think even late last season he looked better to me. You know, he's transitioning from playing quarterback. You would think the blocking would be slower to come along, but I will say I think the durability is a real concern. You know, he has a kind of a knee issue that tends to flare up after games. And, you know, during last season, I was enrolled in a master's program at Vandy, and he was also in the business school, and I saw him come in on crutches, you know, one day on game week on like a Monday or Tuesday, and he played in the game that week. So, you know, he hasn't really practiced. And if you're an NFL scout who's coming to all these practices, I mean, I start to wonder, like, is this guy ever going to be 100%? Now, having said that, again, he, you know, obviously he was playing through some issues last season and still put up a really good season and you know, established himself as a draft prospect. So he's really good, but I am curious to see. It seems like I would think he's not going to play much probably this weekend. I know he said yesterday that he thinks he's going to play, but I don't really see the upside against really an overmatched FCS opponent. And you know, he needs to preserve himself a little bit for, you know, the full 12-game regular season.
Robby, last thing for you here. You know, obviously it was such a perfect marriage last year between Pavia and Tim Beck, Jerry Kill, and that offensive staff. And I thought Clark Lee just did a great job last year of, you know, getting out of his comfort zone and bringing in some people and changing the way things were going in the program. So now that it's year 2 with those guys kind of in the fold, how big a deal is that? Like, how big a deal is to have kind of that system in place? And I know people have thrown out the idea of, well, they got tape on Vanderbilt now, and maybe defenses catch up to them. But I think with the way they execute, they've got a chance to be really good offensively again. How big a deal is kind of the continuity on the staff and the formula that Clark Lee uncovered last year?
I honestly don't think it's a big deal because Pavia had been in the offense already for like two or three years previously at New Mexico State. So, I mean, from that perspective, he already knew it. To me, the bigger deal is just that in the rev share era, like in the past, Vandy, I'm not going to say they followed every single NCAA rule. I'm sure they did not, but they've had conference members that really get hammered by the NCAA occasionally for major under the table payouts over payments to players over the last 10, 15 years or whatever. And Vandy, it seems like, wasn't doing a lot of that, and hey, it was probably reflected in the record, right? And now you've got this whether it's 13 or 15 million or whatever that teams can spend on players. That is a sort of salary floor, if you will, that makes things a lot easier for them in terms of going out getting players from the transfer portal and sort of evening the playing field a little bit. So they were able to do that to bring in some talent. You still got to hit on the evals, and they're still going to be less talented than pretty much all of their SEC opponents. So that is more what I'm looking for instead of the, okay, like for sure, in terms of the offensive coordinator coming back, I know that doesn't maybe affect Pavia because he was already in the offense, but I do think, to your point, there's this idea like, okay, our team's going to figure them out. I do think there's a little bit of that, but at the same time, there's so many options with that offense in terms of, they can run a triple option, there's RPO, and you never know exactly what's going to happen. I think it's a tough offense to completely figure out, and Tim Beck is a very good play caller as well. So I don't totally buy into that aspect, but I think it is fair. For instance, Virginia Tech, you could see it in the first half of that opener last year where I think Vandy went up 17-0 and Virginia Tech seemed a little shell shocked. And Brent Pry made comments after the game like, hey, we hadn't really seen this offense with this personnel. So maybe there's a little bit to that, but I think they, for the most part, should still be able to have success there as long as the talent they brought in is, effective, right? Because there's been plenty of teams that we've seen, like Florida State last year, where they think they've got this great team that they've been able to improve through the portal, and then just does not happen. And you never really know until the first game is played.
Well, Robby, we're looking forward to it, man. Appreciate so much your time and taking time to be with us this morning. Have fun this season. We will talk to you soon. And again, appreciate you being with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Yep, Robby Weinstein, our guest here on Robby and Rexrode from 24/7 Sports. We'll react to what Robby had to say and give our official Vanderbilt season predictions coming up next. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Vanderbilt football begins the season this Saturday at home against Charleston Southern. You can catch all the action on 102.5 The Game with the pregame show starting at 4:30, kickoff at 6 o'clock. Coverage also available on the Game Nashville app and at theGameNashville.com. Appreciate Robby Weinstein for being with us in the last segment. Joe, it is time. Vanderbilt kicks off this weekend against Charleston Southern. We'll get into some Tennessee action tomorrow when it comes to their season predictions. But let's just go ahead and start with Vanderbilt. Joe, your official expectation, your prediction for the Vanderbilt Commodores this season is what?
And am I going?
You can go game by game. I've gone game by game. So if that's what you want to do.
I'll go quickly game by game. I think one of the keys, a great segment with Robby, and I think one of the keys there, like you said, is, well, actually, that's right, with Robby and Robby. Excellent segment. But Weinstein, one of the keys that he made, the key points he made, the talent level getting to a certain point, like they can be in the game now, right? Where they weren't to some extent, to the same extent previously. So, like, to me, we should start getting rid of like oh my God, how are they in a close game with this bad team or that bad team? So part of this year, I expect them to roll in the games that they should roll in, which to me is certainly Charleston Southern and Georgia State. And, Utah State is not, I mean, that's actually a better opponent than some people might realize. I don't want to piss off Robby knowing what his rant is about. So I don't look at that like they should roll Utah State, but they should win that game. So they're going to beat Charleston Southern. I think they're going to lose to Virginia Tech. I think great point too on like in that game, Virginia Tech adjusted and did a much better job in the second half. It ended up being overtime. Great game. I think at home, Virginia Tech gets them back. I think they go to South Carolina and lose. And so then you're looking at 1-2 and maybe some people questions of things. Georgia State, Utah State, you get to 3-2. You go to Bama, you go back down to 3-3. They are, it's just not great if you're Vanderbilt if like Virginia Tech and Bama are teams that have you at home and want you.
Yeah.
It's not great. I have to pick LSU to win here. I just think they're too talented, so that's 3-4. I'm taking Vandy against Missouri 4-4. At Texas, that's just too tough. 4-5. I could never pick Hugh Freeze to beat Diego Pavia ever in a million years. 5-5. Definitely like him at home against Kentucky. 6-5 on November 22nd. That clinches a bowl game. Ooh, and sets up that game at Tennessee. My goodness. I'm gonna give Vanderbilt that game. I'm going to give Vanderbilt that game in a 7-5 finish. I mean, Heupel has had very little trouble with Vanderbilt. Like the days of you think about Butch and Pruitt and their struggles against Vanderbilt are long gone. And I do think that offense it makes it real hard for a less talented team to beat you. But there's something about Pavia. I think Pavia is special, and if he's in one piece at that point, which is a huge if.
It is.
Look, I have lots of questions, and we're going to do Tennessee this week too, but I do have lots of questions about that offense. So I'll throw out. So now you can't call me GB Joe. You got to call me Vandy Joe.
That's right.
7-5.
So you've got Vanderbilt at 7-5 this year. I'm one game below you. I've got them at 6-6. We're actually the exact same until the Tennessee game. Like I think
there we go.
Yeah, I think Tennessee beats them and they end up 6-6. I mean, the way their schedule breaks out, like, could they lose to Missouri and Auburn? Sure, of course they could. But I like having those games at home. I think like the LSU game. I said it yesterday. I think LSU's going 7-5. I think that's going to be a really good game. I really do. Like I think LSU Vanderbilt, they've got a shot to win that game. I'll pick LSU just because the talent level. But you are like, I think that game, if you really look at it, you're coming off the Alabama game, which may not go well for Vanderbilt. But then you got 2 weeks off. You got the bye week there, setting up the game against LSU. I was really, really tempted to pick Vanderbilt in that one. Like I wrestled with that one for a long time. I just picked LSU there because of the talent difference, but I've got him at 6-6. I'm with you. Like I think Virginia Tech, I think a lot of Vanderbilt fans are just chalking that up as a win. That's going to be a tough game on the road. Like going on the road against a team that, it was a great game last year. As Robby pointed out in the last segment, Vanderbilt came out and kind of punched him in the mouth and then Virginia Tech fought back in that game. It's going to be a good environment on the road there, so I'm looking forward to that. South Carolina, I think's got a chance to be really good this year, particularly with their quarterback in Lenore Sellers, and they stifled Vanderbilt last year. Can you get we talk about Heupel not having much trouble. For whatever reason, the South Carolina has just wiped the floor with Vanderbilt over recent years, even when South Carolina hasn't really been all that good, and it's been kind of mystifying to me. So, I can't pick Vanderbilt to beat South Carolina until I see it. So 6-6 is my expectation for them. And by the way, Joe, I mean, you and I both are above the win total for them, right? What's their win total? 4.5, I think, is what they are on the FanDuel Sportsbook. So
is that right?
I think it was so.
5.5. Is it 4.5?
Let me double check that. I think it's 4.5, but I will double check. But either way, you and I are over.
Boy, if it's 4.5, man, that is that hammer that.
I see 4.5.
It's 4.5.
I mean, I love them. I love them to win 5 games with that schedule. And I like them a lot to win 6. 7, I may have gone on a limb a little bit. Another point to bring up on the South Carolina front. South Carolina is Virginia Tech plays them in the opener in Atlanta, which is another actually really good game this week. So they will be coming off. Virginia Tech will be coming off a much tougher game. So that's something to keep in mind too. And also another thing Robby mentioned, which to me, look, obviously it's not an ideal opponent. Although I think anytime if you're a Vanderbilt fan and you're like, you know what, I can go to the stadium today and I know my team's going to blow out the opponent. That probably feels different and kind of good, and you don't mind it so much. But the stadium, I mean, they have 6 new premium seating areas. They've sold out 5 of them. They got a fully connected concourse now. They got the video board and the ribbon board with over 3 million pixels. For those of you who keep track of pixels, that sounds like a lot of pixels, but it's going to be cool. I mean, you think about that. It wasn't that long ago. They had the scoreboard, kind of drifting in the wind, as they're putting all the construction together, but the whole area, and it's not going to be totally done this year. I think that by next season, you'll see the full vision of it, but it's going to be really cool to go to a game down there. And, there's still things you can do at the stadium for sure, but this is pretty significant. Then you think about the basketball buildings and everything. There is a lot of momentum over at Vanderbilt.
Well, I'm just glad they're not, taking on South Dakota. I've heard that's a real rough game for a certain team in America that's coming up this weekend, South Dakota. So got to watch out for them.
Don't blow the rant, man.
I'm not.
Don't blow the rant.
I'm just going to throw it out there. That's what people are telling me. South Dakota, big time game coming up. 615-737-1025. Let's head back to our 1025 The Game phone line. Welcome in Mark in Nashville to the program. Mark, good morning, buddy. How we doing?
Yeah, how you doing, Robby? Robby, you leaving something out. Your friend, Mark.
That's true.
You got to put that.
That's my bad.
Put that out there, Robby. Got to put that out, Robby.
Friend
Joe,
of the show.
First of all, I got a couple of things. How you doing, Joe? Joe, who's bothering you this morning, man? Do I need to take care of some business for you today? I mean, I take it personal when somebody's coming at you, Joe. So
I don't know. I mean, I don't know who's tattling on me. I mean, I rarely use profanity or call people jerks too often on the text line. Every once in a while.
It never happens. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know you never call your bodyguard a jerk because you know how it is for you and I, Joe. So
that's right. I may need you here.
Yeah. Well, I'm always here for you, Joe. Joe, Robby, I can't believe you giving praise to the one coach that you hate, Jane Beamer. But yeah, South Carolina is going to be good this year, Robby. I think they're one of the teams that may make a run at a playoff and whatnot. But you're talking about Vanderbilt, OC Tim Beck, and Clark Lee. They do have better personnel over there on Broadway now, and the stadium is looking good and whatnot. They got a tough schedule, though. You're right. They're not going to win down there in Blacksburg. That's just not going to happen this year. That's one of the toughest places in the country to play at. But Robby, Joe, I hate to disappoint y'all. I know y'all said 7-5. I got it turned around 5-7.
Okay.
I think a lot of teams. I think a lot of teams are going to play Vandy different this year. A lot of defensive coordinators with a schedule you're looking at, they're going to be prepared for that offense that Vanderbilt runs. I know it's kind of option type offense, and it's kind of complicated. But I think a lot of those teams will figure that out. I don't think Tennessee can't afford to let Vanderbilt beat them. Heupel just signed that brand new contract, so I got them going. I hate to say it, Vanderbilt, Nashville. Don't be mad at me. 5-7 is what I'm looking at. But hey, Joe, Robbie, y'all have a good Labor Day weekend and
You
stuff,
too, Mark.
man. We'll speak at y'all later, man.
Sounds good, man. Appreciate you, buddy.
All right.
5-7 is what Mark's got him going there on that Friday. Hey, let me be clear. I do have some ulterior motives for South Carolina. I have no problem hyping them up. So when they inevitably fail this year, I can just really enjoy that. It'd be awesome.
Oh yeah. Oh you're hate watching them all year.
Oh yeah.
See, 5-7 can certainly happen for Vanderbilt. Again, you're still getting the over on that 4.5. I think that's really low. I think 5.5 is the right over under. But what do I know?
615-737-1025, our phone number. Your reaction to our expectations for Vanderbilt. Plus, Joe continues to pile on Tennessee fans and thinks they're soft. We'll get into that coming up next as well. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. I got some tickets to give away. A pair of tickets to the Borchetta Bourbon Music City Grand Prix at the Nashville Super Speedway coming up this weekend, August 30th and 31st. Be caller 3, 615-737-1025. Caller 3 will win a pair of tickets to the Borchetta Bourbon Music City Grand Prix at the Nashville Super Speedway this weekend. We got the Rob rant coming up here in just over 10 minutes. Taking your thoughts in the meantime, 615-737-1025. Joe Rexrode, you have just picked Vanderbilt to beat Tennessee this year, and now you think Tennessee fans are soft. Explain yourself. What's going on with all this Vol hatred?
Well, I hadn't even really thought about that. That's a double whammy. Vol Twitter's gonna come after me. We being the Athletic did voting for what your team, what you would prefer for the three protected games. And I was very disappointed. And this is not the first place I've seen this or seen it suggested. Again, maybe I need help on this, on the tradition aspect of it. Okay. But the Tennessee 3 games that were the top 3, the obvious 2, which is Alabama and Vanderbilt, but then Kentucky instead of Florida. And I can't. I mean, I guess is the idea. What would be the reason for that other than
they won't win?
Is that a problem? Am I overstating it to say that's a little bit of a soft approach from Tennessee fans? I say go. Don't you want to play like this? It hasn't been amazing recently, so you have to be, I guess, of a certain age. But again, like this was, I think, the most exciting September college football game for a lot of years, and that's in my mind anyway. So I don't know, and I just feel like there's just some real good bitterness in that series over the years, whereas Tennessee Kentucky has just been such a lopsided series.
Well, I think you just said why there are some Tennessee fans that love that, right? Like they love the just dominance against Kentucky and they want wins. I'm with you. Like, look, as a Tennessee fan, there are 2 games on the schedule that matter more to me every year than all the rest of them, and it's Alabama and Florida, right? Like, I am of a certain age where I remember how big the Florida game used to be. Now I'm probably on the back end of that age, right? Like, the people a little bit younger than me maybe don't remember how big that game used to be. But Florida, like, first off, it's going to be a huge game this year. It's in November this year, so it's a little bit different. So I'm excited to see what that looks like. But Alabama and Florida, as a Tennessee fan, are the 2 games that I care about the most. So I hope the 3 that Tennessee end up getting are Alabama, Florida, and Vanderbilt. Like, I hope that's their 3 in the rotation. I think it's probably going to land with Alabama, Vanderbilt, and Kentucky because I know Kentucky fans all want Tennessee. So we'll see. I don't know. We'll see what that looks like there. But when I saw the percentages here, I think Kentucky's at 60% in this thing, and Florida was at 39%. I was shocked by like how big of a gap there was too. It's not like it's just right next to each other in the voting. Like, it's a significant gap. The Tennessee fans would rather have Kentucky than Florida.
No, exactly. 60-39. I mean, that's just, and there's some people who are really, let me tell you, we're talking about soft Tennessee fans. There's some tough Tennessee fans voting for Georgia in here too. How about Alabama and Georgia? Only Auburn's probably going to get stuck with that one. 10% for that, but 97% for Bama. So look, that right there tells you tradition matters more than let's just compile wins, right?
Yeah.
I guess maybe some people look at it like, okay, we'll take that one, but then let's not take Florida. But also, Florida has not been. How long has it been since Florida has been truly a power? It's been more than a decade. Now they still have the profile of a powerful program, right? But
it's a big year for them.
It is. It's a big year for them, and they still, even though Billy Napier seems to have stabilized himself, they still may not be all that far away from starting over yet again. Things change. Things can cycle in and out. I mean, Kentucky has had a really good run under Mark Stoops, still losing to Tennessee on the regular. But I feel like that tradition should matter, and it clearly doesn't matter to me
Well,
enough of Vols fans.
There are also a lot of Tennessee fans that are just totally scarred by Florida, right? Like they hadn't won in the swamp since when? Is 05? Is that the last time they won in the swamp? Somewhere in that neighborhood. There have been some absolutely crazy finishes down there that they've been on the wrong end of. I mean, as I'm saying this, I know I'm about to get sent a video from my father of one of them and me just going nuts, reacting to a fourth down that Florida scored on when Tennessee had the lead. Like, there's been some wild stuff that's happened down there in Florida. Like, even a couple years ago, right? Like, in retrospect, like, Tennessee should have never lost that game to Florida based on what that Florida team was and what that Tennessee team was, but Florida just kicked their butt throughout that game. So, like, there are Tennessee fans that are already looking at the schedule this year and are like, well, they got to go down to Florida. You can chalk that one up as a loss, which I get it. I mean, it's been like 20 years since they won in the swamp. So I think there's a huge mental block with Florida with a lot of Tennessee fans.
Yeah, Caleb says real Vol fans still have zero faith in Tennessee playing in Gainesville. That is fair. I mean, that is fair. It's incredible. Some of the going into those games, okay, this is the year, and it doesn't happen. So I get that. Also though, if you stop playing them, then you're gonna have to hear from Florida fans about like, oh, the streak is now 26, and you only played them like once in 5 years, so you didn't even have a chance.
Yeah,
think about that
again. Like I don't want to see it go away. Like I want it to be Alabama, Florida, and Vanderbilt as the 3 permanent rotations for Tennessee. Now, I have seen some Tennessee fans that want Georgia. Like, they want Georgia, Alabama, and Vanderbilt. I don't think you're going to end up getting Alabama and Georgia. I could be wrong. We'll see how that plays out, but I could be wrong on that. Now, I say that. I mean, Auburn probably going to get Alabama and Georgia. So we'll see what that looks like for them on that front. But like, I think if I had to guess today, the 3 for Tennessee is probably going to be Alabama, Vanderbilt, Kentucky. And I think the only other option for them will be Florida.
So you look at the Kentucky voting, not 91% go with Tennessee.
Yeah.
Tennessee is the top choice,
which is why it's going to be Kentucky, by the way.
And it's like, okay, so I know that there's like the tradition and all that stuff, but you never beat them. Like, why is this a rivalry you enjoy? Like, now, number 2, Vanderbilt, 79%. Please give us Vanderbilt, right? And then you got South Carolina. So I don't know. I mean, I get it. You want to balance. You don't want your team to play 3 traditional powers. Florida, 100% Georgia. That's never. We know that's hanging in. But then number 2 for Florida fans,
they want Tennessee
by far, 78%.
And the Vols fans are like, of course they do. They kick their butt all the time.
But I mean, like, if you're realistic as a Florida fan, that's a program that is going to be more years than not. It's going to be a tough team. It's going to be a good game, but I think that's valuing tradition.
Well, and again, the other one's LSU for Florida. So I talked about that last week when we had this conversation. Like, Georgia, Tennessee, LSU, that'd be a heck of a draw for Florida. It's a heck of a permanent 3 opponents there.
Can't call Gators fans soft. Might call them dumb, but can't call them soft.
Jeez,
I would not do either on the text line.
1025 the game phone line. Driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Welcome in Doug to the program. Doug, good morning. Thank you for calling in.
Hey guys, I just think you might have to look at this from the other side. Like, who are Kentucky's rivalries besides Tennessee?
Right.
So,
yeah, it's a great. I mean, Vanderbilt. I don't know. Like, is that it in football?
Right.
Yeah, there's no one obvious. Yeah, Missouri. SEC East dregs, I mean,
exactly.
That's kind of what you think about. Maybe South Carolina, I guess, a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, but to that point, like, I mean, even Vanderbilt, right? Like, who is Vanderbilt's big rival besides Tennessee, right? Does one exist? Like, I know they've played Ole Miss, but like the Vanderbilt fans in this poll, it's Tennessee's 95%, Kentucky's 88%, and then Ole Miss is 46%. So throughout this process, I mean, if you're the SEC, like, you're going to have to manufacture some rivalries in this.
Yeah. Well, they have beaten Kentucky, 2 of the last 3 years.
Yeah.
So Vandy, Kentucky, just with proximity, and it kind of makes sense to me as something that look, if through this, some of these are just going to be like, okay, I guess we'll just give this team that team. And you might develop something that looks more like a rivalry over time.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. 615-737-1025. Yep, there's the video from my dad and me losing my stuff with the Florida game. Good stuff. The Rob Rant coming up next. 1025 The Game.
Don't make me angry.
Sometimes you have to tell someone to pound sand.
You wouldn't like me when I'm angry.
This is the Rob Rant. Now on Robby and Rexrode.
He landed on a helmet, and that's the truth.
This dude is an idiot.
We have to understand, what do we want out of our media? It's this place with the drama.
I don't need to see any games anywhere not in the continental United States for college football. I'll be honest with you.
This is college football. Nice of them to let children have a go.
Top of the first down to you.
Enough is enough.
What's the next? Who is the next question?
Somebody run over the fraternity. Throw a freaking brick through their window.
It is that time of the day. Time for the Rob Rant. God, I'm glad we got to relive that Butch Jones press conference. He slipped on a helmet, and that's the truth. What do we want from our media? Golly, what a clown.
Legend.
Jeez. All right. Apparently I didn't give this Iowa State, Kansas State game enough credit, Joe, because we're talking about it for like the third time this week now. But I was previously, until yesterday, unaware that Matt Campbell, head coach of Iowa State, said this after the game, and it legitimately made me laugh out loud when I heard it. I just want to play for you what Matt Campbell said about Iowa State and their schedule following their win against Kansas State in Ireland this past weekend.
Hopefully, if I make anybody mad, I really don't care. So I think we're set up for failure because I think this is the hardest schedule in the country. And the reality of it is, we go home and we play an incredible South Dakota team that's coming in, and they had a great year. You're talking about a team that's in the Final Four, right? And then obviously you play another huge rival game that's going to have emotion. And then somehow we're on the road at an Arkansas State team that we know is super talented. That's the first quarter of our football season, and it's going to take everything we got.
He said South Dakota, Iowa, and Arkansas State to highlight his point that they got the hardest schedule in the country. Are you kidding me? Now, look, I get it. South Dakota, at their level of football, was very good last year. I recognize that. Iowa State, I believe, is a 15.5-point favorite against South Dakota coming up. Let me just read to you Iowa State's schedule here, Joe, which, by the way, does not include another preseason ranked team until November the 1st against Arizona State. All right. South Dakota, Iowa, both at home. On the road against Butch Jones and Arkansas State. Arizona, at Cincinnati, at Colorado, BYU, Arizona State, at TCU, Kansas, at Oklahoma State to end the season. Now, look, I'm not saying that is like, soft as Charmin. Like it's just an absolutely breeze of a schedule. But it ain't the toughest schedule in the country. And it leads me to my larger point, Joe. Why do college football coaches in particular always have to lie to such extremes? Like, why do we always have to go to such extremes with these college football coaches of, we play in the best conference in America. Never mind, we're in the Big Sky. We play in the best conference in America. It's great stuff out here. Or we got the hardest schedule in America. We got South Dakota coming in next week. What do you think we're supposed to do against South Dakota? We're set up for failure out here. It's just so dumb. Like, why do we always have to exaggerate so much as college football head coaches? And then, we got the hardest schedule in the country. We got South Dakota and Iowa and Arkansas State coming up. We just went through the Vanderbilt schedule a couple weeks ago. I want you to march into Matt Campbell's office today and say, hey, would you rather play your schedule or would you rather play Vanderbilt's schedule? I 100% guarantee you he will take his schedule. 100%. So can we stop? Like, why do we have to just make stuff up? I'm glad he got the caveat before it, Joe, of I don't really care if I make people mad. I'm glad he doesn't because it made me mad.
Yeah, he should have been worried about, he's worried about making people mad. I don't really care about making myself sound really stupid. But here I go. No, it's a coach epidemic. We play in the toughest league. So like in college hoops, it's as you're politicking as you get toward selection Sunday, right? And so some of it is that, and so a lot of these guys are thinking like, hey, I got to make sure to make our case. But if you're like on the college football selection committee and you heard him, you would probably have the same reaction that you just did. You're either laughing or yelling out loud. Like, what are you talking about? You're actually including Arkansas State in your argument for how this first month, oh my God. Granted, you traveled to Ireland.
Yeah.
I'll give you that. But I mean, it's laughable. I mean, look, I don't want to make this only about like the SEC, right? But let's just go with your buddy Shane Beamer. How about a little, let's see, Alabama, a little Texas A&M, at Ole Miss, at LSU. You get a nice Clemson game at the end of the season.
Virginia
throw
Tech.
a little, sure, on a neutral site. I mean, it's incredible. I think the Big 12, I mean, they do suffer a little bit from like they seem to be a bunch of solid football teams, right? Which might end up leaving you with like a bid or two. Which is unfortunate, but like you saying things like that, I don't see it. It's not going to help you. Like,
you should be
no
docked.
one buys it.
Yeah, you should have it. You should have it count against you when you say some stupid stuff like that. like, well,
there should be a metric in this.
Yeah, Iowa State was the
takes
10th best team in the country, but their coach is a moron, so we're moving them down to 14. That's what they're doing. That's what should happen in this situation.
I like the idea. You know, the SEC, and by the way, you know, being in Destin this spring for the SEC spring meetings, I mean, every single SEC coach like made it seem like their schedules each year is like fighting a war.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, calm down, guys. Like, okay, yes, you have tougher schedule than the Big 12. We all agree. And frankly, toughest schedule, I mean, tougher than the Big 10, but like every single game isn't like the game of the century, but that's what the SEC coaches do. I mean, they all exaggerate.
I mean, I could not get over it. Well, we got the toughest schedule in the country. We got South Dakota coming in next week. It's like, oh, good. Great. Nice FCS team you got coming in. Awesome.
Yeah, like really good.
Yeah, they're a great FCS team, which
and
you should beat by 3 touchdowns.
FCS team.
Yeah. Good stuff. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. 615-737-1025. Teron Davenport, ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter, will join us coming up next. We'll get his thoughts on the Titans roster, now down to 53, and what more we could see before the Titans take on the Denver Broncos in week 1. That's coming up next. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Welcome back in, Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game, final hour here on the program. Robbie Stanley, Joe Rexrode, Ian Safar here with you on this Wednesday morning. And we head to our 102.5 The Game phone line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, and welcome in our friend Teron Davenport, ESPN NFL Nation Titans reporter, host of Talking with TD, presented by Bart Durham Injury Law. TD, good morning. How we doing?
Hey, good morning. What's going on, fellas?
Not a lot, man. Appreciate you taking time to be with us this morning. So, TD, the 53-man roster's out. We'll get your thoughts on some of that here in just a few minutes. I want to start on the Spears front, though, because obviously tough news for the Titans, him missing the first 4 weeks at minimum of the regular season. So how do you think they're going to handle this from a deployment standpoint? Are we just going to see a whole lot of Tony Pollard? I know Callahan talked earlier in the offseason about, wanting maybe to split up the workload a little bit. Do you think that's still viable with Julius Chestnut and or Khalil Mullings? How do you think the Titans handle that in Spears' absence?
Yeah, I actually wrote about that earlier this off season, the split and how he wanted a further distribution of labor. I think now it's going to be different. Sure, you don't want Pollard to get 30 carries a game, but at the same time, you have to understand that there is a bigger drop off when you go from Pollard to Chestnut and Mullings, as opposed to Pollard to Spears. And that's no slight on Chestnut and Mullings. I think they both should still get carries, and I think that's going to happen. But it's just the volume of carries the guy opposite Pollard was going to get was going to be higher than before.
So I know, TD, you tweeted, you're surprised about Prochet being cut. He was a popular choice. And they could. Do you think they will be able to sneak him out of the practice squad and then still work it so that he could be their returner this year? I mean, do you feel like that's the plan and that's feasible? And if not, is Jim DK ready to take on that role as a rookie?
That's the thing that's so interesting, because John Fossil just a week or so ago hinted at them going with a veteran returner, and here it is. The guy that was the best option for them has been released. I think they'll try to get Prochet on to the practice squad, and that'll give them 3 call-ups. But after that, they're gonna have to figure some things out. So. Even if they do it that way, it's going to be a decision that is going to have to be made, at some point during the year. I think that is what they would like to do, but, who knows if he gets claimed, right? You got the Falcons. He had a nice week of practice against them. They need receivers. What if, they grab him? Tampa. What if Tampa grabs him? I doubt they would, but the Falcons, I think, are an option. So, it just depends on how he clears the waivers.
So, TD, we've talked with you a lot about the offensive line and what they've looked like to this point in camp. I'm curious for your perspective on the depth of the offensive line, whether that's a Jackson Slater or a Jukwu out there. We know we've seen Corey Levin a lot, but how much better, if at all, do you think the Titans are from a depth perspective on the offensive line, knowing that injuries in this league inevitably happen at some point?
Yeah, I think, John Ojukwu is a guy that I think is more suited for the, 6th lineman spot. And I don't necessarily think he's someone you want starting, right, if somebody goes down. I would probably lean more towards Crenshaw Dixon or Ali Udo to start if either of the tackles go down. The interior part of it, Jackson Slater, Corey Levin, would be the first ones up. So you do get some versatility with Levin and Slater. I thought Rupchich was a guy that would have made it because he could play all 4 spots, basically everything except center. So, I think the depth is there. Again, the drop-off from the starters to the reserves, it's pretty significant. So that's another situation where it's like, man, you hope you stay healthy.
Yeah, we were talking earlier, TD, like safety would be probably the one spot on this team where depth looks really sound, and you could make a case for, being able to or needing to upgrade the depth at a lot of other places. And to me, that's what the waiver claims are largely about, right? I think it's around 11 today is the deadline, I think, for teams to submit their claims. Do you feel like there's going to be several potentially from the Titans? And I guess if you were to rank the top 2 or 3 positions where you think that, and I know a lot of it has to do with like who is actually out there, but what would you say to that?
Yeah, I'd probably say cornerback. D-line is another one. Edge, the D-line / edge. I would say those would be the ones. And, we saw already that they intend to sign Skylar Turtle from Carolina. So you have that. I think, cornerback is the one, though. That's the one I think is going to get the most action.
So TD on the front of tight end, they're going with 3 to start the year. We talked with you about Chig and Gunnar Helm. You had David Martin Robinson in the fold. How do you feel about that room as a whole heading into week 1 against Denver, based on what you've seen and having just 3 on the roster at this moment?
I think it's strong. I think it's very strong. You got a lot of versatility there. Gunnar Helm, you could line him up out wide. He'll run routes like a receiver. You know what I mean? You could also have him in line. And, if you want to motion him around, you could do that. But their move guys are Martin Robinson and more importantly, Chig. And, there's so much you could do with him. So I think the versatility aspect is good. You don't have a pure bona fide inline guy, but, you look at the blocking side of things, 907, David Martin Robinson, Gunnar Helm, and Chig, they all had their moments. So I think they're going to be okay blocking-wise too.
So, TD, another possibility out there to me would be like I look at like Simeon and Brandon Allen, and it's like, what? Fine, pick one to be your QB2. I don't know if you're with PK and think that Simeon actually has a chance, but like I would like to see the Titans, if possible, have as a QB3 a young guy. Now, people will rag on me for saying Hendon Hooker.
I know
and look,
where you're going.
Yeah, but he's not. But what about Kyle McCord? I mean, there's take it
Now
away
you're
from the
talking.
orange-colored glasses. Kyle McCord, for example, and I haven't
Now
seen
you're talking.
anything since he. Like, what do you think about that? Just having someone young, and who knows, over time you might really have something.
Yeah, I think McCord, is a guy that could come in and be a developmental guy. Now, how much time you have to develop a prospect is a different story, but he could come along, and that's actually, it's funny you mentioned Kyle McCord because I liked him at Syracuse, I liked him at the Shrine, and then I was combing through the waivers and I saw the Eagles release him, and I said, that's somebody they probably should look at. So we're sharing a brain on that one.
TD, Brian Callahan the other day was talking about, his design of training camp and how intentionally he wanted to make it pretty difficult. And specifically for Ward, he wanted to make it pretty difficult. Do you feel like they accomplished that? And if so, how much preparation can that actually give Ward for week 1 against what we know is going to be an incredibly talented and gifted defense in Denver?
Yeah, I think they did it. You look at the defenses they had them face. I know the Falcons don't have like an amazing defense and standout players, but personnel-wise, but Raheem Morris, we know, is one of the better DCs in the league, and now obviously head coach. And then you look at the week before with Todd Bowles, and then finishing up with Brian Flores, and then practicing against Denard Wilson. So you got very aggressive defenses that he's going against, and that's good. I think it'll give him a taste, but he doesn't know what he's about to experience going into Denver with that defense and with a regular season and actual game plan and everything. And the good thing is there's actual game planning on the Titans side too. So it's going to be a good matchup. I don't think he's necessarily going to go into it knowing exactly what it's going to be, and it'll be a feel-out period. And it's just going to be about how they could weather those early storms. That's going to be the big thing.
In the week and a half until that game, TD, if there's if you're his QB coach, what's the thing you're hammering that needs to get better on the field technically speaking, that he needs to sharpen up as much as possible before this opener?
I would just always consistently tell him timing, timing, timing. Get to your drop, get the ball out. Top of your drop, get the ball out. Top of your drop, get the ball out. You know what I mean? Those types of things. That's what I would really make sure that he's able to hone in on. And then obviously with that timing, it comes the footwork, so that's the direction I would go.
TD, I said the other day on the show, we were talking about, wide receiver 3 and who that ends up being for the Titans. And it could be a game to game type of thing. I really like Io Manor. I liked what I saw from him throughout the preseason. I think hopefully he's got a chance as the season goes on here to really grow as a player. Where do you think he is? And now that you've gotten to see him up close and personal in camp, where do you project he may be as the year goes along here? What kind of a season do you think is in store for him?
Yeah, I mean, he's big, he's talented. I think where he is right now is inconsistent, right? And that's the main thing that he has to make sure that he brings to the table. And he's not soft or anything like that, but I would like to see him a little more aggressive, like a little more, not dominant, but just, sometimes you got to go across that middle with no fear and, all the time. But I mean, sometimes you want to see him do that a little more aggressively and just like run his routes with more, more to it. I guess urgency is a word, but I think when it hits for him. But he just has to be a more consistent player. And that's really the bottom line.
Who ends up with more snaps and targets this season, Io Manor or Van Jefferson?
I think it's going to be Io Manor because I feel like there's going to be a moment where it hits. Kind of like what happened with Cedric Gray this preseason. There was a moment where it hit, and next thing you know, you're like, wow, there's a player there. And I think that's what you're going to get from Io Manor. He's a player. He's been impressive. So I would say he'll have more snaps and receptions than Van Jefferson, but it's going to come towards the end of the year.
Well, TD, great stuff as always, man. Really appreciate your perspective, appreciate your time, and we will talk to you soon, my friend.
Yeah, for sure, man. And allergy season is upon us. I feel it. It's crazy. Appreciate you, Barry, with the Barry White over here.
Oh, no, it's good stuff. That's also what happens when it's, 51 in the morning and then 90 in the afternoon.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Yeah, absolutely. TD, great stuff, man. Appreciate you.
All right, for sure. Appreciate it.
Teron Davenport, presented by Bart Durham Injury Law. We'll react to what TD had to say. Coming up next, take your thoughts on the Titans as well. 615-737-1025. Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. Tune in to ESPN 94.9 The Fan this Sunday at 2 o'clock for our college football game of the week. Virginia Tech taking on South Carolina, presented by Twin Peaks Restaurants, Circa Sportsbook, and Macero in 12 South. Coverage also available on the Game Nashville app and at theGameNashville.com. We are live from our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership where the buzz is always about great service. Appreciate TD for being with us in the last segment. We will have Charles Robinson with us tomorrow on the show. Paul Kuharski a little bit later in the week. I believe Friday is when that is taking place. So we will have PK later in the week on the program. Joe, it's interesting to get TD's thoughts there on the running back part of this. Spears out a minimum of 4 weeks. And one of the things we discussed earlier in the show, what does this mean for Tony Pollard? Like, we know that Tony Pollard was going to be the primary back anyway for the Titans. But Brian Callahan did spend some time this offseason talking about how they'd like to maybe divide things up a little bit more with the running back and how, you could probably save Pollard deeper into the season by doing that. And now with Spears out the first 4 weeks, as TD mentioned, I think there's pretty big drop-off from Tony Pollard to Julius Chestnut and Khalil Mullings. That's just me. We'll see if they agree with that. How do you think Spears being out basically the first month affects what they do with Pollard, how they run their offense, everything kind of involved in that discussion, Joe Rexrode?
Yeah, well, look, it's part of why in my first fantasy draft of the year with the athletic Detroit folks, I took Tony Pollard as my third back and felt pretty good about it in like the 8th round. First of all, I think he's going to get a lot of work early, but also I just think I don't think that Spears was going to be a split workload guy anyway, maybe a little bit more work. I think he can be an effective third down back. But Pollard can be an every down back too. I mean, really the reason you don't want that is for wear and tear. He can do it. He can do he's a good football player. He can do every aspect of the position. And I just think Chestnut and Mullings, Chestnut can do it too, but I guess I'm interested today to see if they do something that would be sort of like, okay, this is a third down back for us. And if not, then I could see just Pollard really getting heavy snaps, certainly before Spears comes back. But either way, I also just think Pollard is going to be, I think he's going to consistently get a lot of work, and I think he's going to produce this year behind an improved offensive line.
Yeah, it's probably something we've not talked a lot about of, Tony Pollard last year with that offensive line in front of him and with an offense that pretty quickly everybody knew, Joe, that they just weren't going to be able to be all that productive throwing the football. I mean, he still slogged his way to over 1,000 yards, 1,079 yards, 5 touchdowns last year. He was 4-2 an attempt, which is an okay number. It's 28 this year. He's always been, right around a 1,000-yard guy since he started to take over as a primary back. Like, it's not like he's ever rolled off some 1,400-yard season or anything like that. But I do wonder, with an offensive line that I think you look at them and you say, all right, you could see where run blocking, they could be pretty good. Like, they've got some guys that seems to fit their MO. Could this be a year? Like, could you get 1,200 yards, 1,250 yards out of Tony Pollard on the ground this year? Like, I'm not going to go nuts and start talking about Tony Pollard being some 1,500-yard back when he's never approached that. But, like, could Tony Pollard at age 28 with this offensive line and hopefully with a quarterback and a passing game that at least poses a threat out there, like, could he be a 1,200-yard guy this year? Because that would be, to me, a pretty big development for this offense if he could do that. And then eventually you do get Spears back and use him how you see fit.
Yeah, no, I think that's possible. And on the Spears front, I know that he was having a good offseason. Obviously, like, his injury issues have not been related to the big concerns when he came in the league.
Yeah.
But he has had a variety of things and soft tissue things. Is it possible that the Titans can feel like they can actually upgrade on him through the waiver wire?
Maybe. I mean, look, I said this before the latest injury. Like, with Spears, it's reached the point with me where I have basically no belief, right? Like he's hurt all the time. Frankly, when he's been healthy, there hadn't been much there. And I don't know how much of that is him and how much of that is the offense and the line and the situation that he's been in. But I mean, you're talking about a guy in 2 years that, like, he ran for 453 yards his first year, 312 last year. He struggled to stay on the field last year. I know he had some personal stuff going on last year too, so I don't discount that. But I think as a third round pick, Joe, it's been very underwhelming from Tajay Spears to this point. And now it's to the point with him from a performance standpoint and now from an injury standpoint where I just don't have a lot of confidence that he's going to work out here.
Yeah, it's fair. I'm not convinced he won't. I'm not convinced, that he can't stay healthy and that he can't be a good third down back and be better than he was last year. I think there's something to how he was performing and having a good offseason. But again, then you just get another issue. High ankle sprains are brutal too.
Yeah.
I mean, high ankle sprains are. It's just you whenever you come back, it feels like it's usually too early, no matter who it is. So it's like we know he's missing the first 4 weeks, but I'm not sure that'll get him back to full explosiveness. I mean, how many weeks will it actually take? Those things are. Although again, like Patrick Mahomes is fine in a week from those quote unquote high. If you have a true high ankle sprain, that's a significant injury. So. Yeah, it's just so in light of that, is there another answer? Because the other two guys, Chestnut he's the Mason Kinsey of the running back room, right? I mean, now I think he's good. I think he can go out there and he can be fine for you. But like, is there someone out there where you can actually upgrade that position? I wouldn't just rule it out. Again, a lot of people throwing out Audric Estime.
Yeah.
He doesn't get me all that excited, but he did have some good moments last year for the Broncos.
Yeah, and then it was interesting to get TD's thoughts on Io Manor as well. So I think inconsistent would probably be the word to describe him to this point. And TD talked about how when it hits with him, it hits and he looks good, and when it doesn't, and he's probably I think was it the Atlanta practice a couple of weeks ago where he just got absolutely dominated out there by like AJ Terrell, and it's like, all right, I mean, what's going on that front? And he talked about how they just being more intentional with the way that you're running your routes and using your size to your advantage and all those things. I mean, to me, Joe, all that sounds like a 4th round wide receiver who is going to take some time to get things figured out at the NFL level, right? Like that to me is kind of a carbon copy of what that sounds like. I like the skill set, I like the size, but I think anybody that's relying on Io Mander to come in week 1 and be like some 5 catch, 85-yard guy, I don't know that I would expect that.
Right. I think you really want like around mid-season for there to be a clear difference with him, and a progression. And again, like kind of taking over, getting more snaps, getting more targets and things like that. I mean, that's what you want to see realistically. I do have a text on my personal text line, someone who knows this franchise very well, wondering about Callahan. Does he want to major in the run game or would he rather throw it? Like he should want to run with the rookie QB, but is he a committed run game guy? Like Bill Callahan, loves running the darn football. Wisconsin's offensive line coach, by golly, that guy wants to run the football. Is Brian Callahan committed? Can he look at things and say, "Hey, man, like this is what we're gonna do"?
It's a good question,
and it's gonna work. I mean, look, people. I know Titans fans. A lot of them are like, I want a team that throws the ball. I want this to look like the Bengals have looked, right? So I get that, but balance will always work in this game. It will always work.
615-737-1025, our phone number. A lot of your Titans thoughts to get to. We will do that coming up next. You're listening to Robby and Rexrode, 1025 The Game. This week's Nashville's Best Deal is for Homegrown Tap Room and Kitchen in Donaldson. Homegrown Tap Room and Kitchen, a beloved neighborhood hub featured on diners, drive-ins, and dives, offers a gourmet twist on comfort food, and you can enjoy one of their 24 taps of craft beer selections, wine, and unique canned cocktails. Get half off a $100 gift card now at theGameNashville.com while supplies last. Taking your thoughts on the Titans at 615-737-1025, our phone number. Wild day on the text line. People are asking for Joe's personal phone number on the text line, hoping that Joe will yell at them. I think we have people impersonating other texters on the text line. We got a lot going on today on the program.
Yeah, 1-900-GOUT-GOUT is the line to reach me. I also, if you go to my X account, I do have a phone number there.
You do.
Some people may or may not know. It is the Hall & Oates helpline. You call it up, you will hear a Hall & Oates song. Your day will be better. By the way, just totally off topic because I'm thinking of Hall & Oates, even though they're not quite qualifying. I recently watched the Yacht Rock documentary. It's freaking amazing. It is so good. And it's more than Yacht Rock. It is a great history of music. I would encourage everyone to watch it.
Where do you find this?
Oh God, I'm bad with this. Like, I don't think it was Netflix. I think it might be an HBO Max doc, but just, Google it.
Okay.
And watch it. It's awesome. It is. I mean, Michael McDonald, man, just absolute voice of the gods. Just, oh my goodness.
It does appear it's in HBO Max.
HBO Max. There we go.
There we go. There we go. Also,
Good to know.
yeah, somebody on the text line is sitting here, pretending to be Adam from Portland.
Documentary with DOCK.
Oh,
yes. Yes, absolutely.
Look at there.
With the captain hat.
Yeah, somebody's impersonating Adam from Portland on the text line, calling Joe fat.
Saying I look like a bunch of biscuits.
A
with
busted
gravy on
can
or
of
something
biscuits.
Like that. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. That wasn't very nice. I'm like, geez, Adam. People
Adam
and I have had our
you.
differences.
Somebody's trying to goad you into being a real mean on the text line.
I haven't been mean to anyone. I haven't been mean to anybody on the text line today, by the way, other than like fake yelling at Viking Matt. So I'd like to know who's tattling on me to Chase. We're gonna figure this out.
Grigsby says the Hall & Oates hotline's been shut down. We need to do some investigative journalism on this.
Oh my God, really?
That's what Grigsby says on the text
line.
line.
Oh my gosh.
You got to make a call after the show.
I'm going to make a call right after the show, and I'm going to have to possibly change my account. Wow, that's really sad.
Jeez.
I'm going to have to put something on there. Like, do they still have, I used to call, like the movie line.
Yeah.
This was in a Seinfeld episode. Like, tonight's shows at West Columbia. Do they still have that? Something. We got.
Is this Kramer?
Man.
I remember we used to call a hotline to see whether or not the field has been rained out for like a baseball game. And I was wondering about that, like if that number, which I had memorized, still existed in Hendersonville. Turns out it doesn't. And I guess they just send text messages out now as to whether or not the field's closed.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I feel like we still need to preserve our landline, recording phone numbers. Eric asked if he was going to ask me if Hall & Oates are considered Yacht Rock. So according to the Yacht Rock, experts, they don't quite qualify. There's a whole breakdown of why. You have to watch it.
Okay. Hey, Micah Parsons' situation is still not figured out. All of Green Bay Packers Twitter, Joe, is convinced that Micah Parsons is getting traded to the Packers today. We'll see how it goes.
Is there real smoke around that?
I don't know. Like there's all these rumors about like reports being on the table of a couple first-round picks being offered by the Packers, and you got John Kuhn tweeting out Micah freaking Parsons, who technically works for the team. A lot of interesting stuff going on.
My God, man. I mean, you're gonna just have a parade. What if this actually were to happen?
I'm trying to refrain myself from getting my hopes up.
What would you be fine with your Packers giving up for Micah Parsons?
If it's a couple first-round picks, second-round pick tossed in there, that's fine. I don't care. Give up the picks.
You're not giving up. Are you giving up 3 firsts?
I would not want to, but if they did it, I wouldn't be that upset about it. I mean, it's Micah Parsons, man. He's 26 years old.
Do it.
Yeah, I'll take him. That'd be pretty nice. Like, they've been the youngest team in the NFL past few years. They're fine on young talent. Go get Micah Parsons. That'd be fine.
My goodness, they would. I mean, I'd pick them to win the NFC. Period.
Yeah,
they'd be my favorite.
Yeah. Joey in Nashville says he just called the Hall & Oates hotline. It's up and running.
Worked for me.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's good. It's all good. Grigsby.
Okay, well,
Bad
don't
information.
Scare me.
Bad information from Grigsby on the text line.
This is how I yell at people on the text line, But okay, so someone else texted that it was down for a while, but it's back up. Thank goodness.
Okay.
Hall & Oates hotline, baby. What's the number?
I don't have my. It's in your Twitter profile.
I'm on it right now. 719-266-2837.
There you go. I think a lot of people thought I was putting like my personal phone number on my Twitter account. It's like, no, man, just call the number. Call the number and find out. And just no can do. And you're just gonna feel better about your day immediately.
Wow, look at Ian's. Ian's got it playing. This is live on the Hall & Oates hotline. I wonder how many people have looked at Rexrode's Twitter account and been like, "Oh yeah, I guess let's give this a call, see what's going on here," and have been greeted with that.
Every single one of them has smiled because of it. I promise you that.
Are Hall & Oates, are they first off, Oates, friend of the show here.
Absolutely. John Oates, friend of the show.
Yeah. Are they like have they repaired their relationship?
I thought I saw something where maybe to some extent it doesn't seem like it's a complete, gnashing of teeth back and forth now.
That's good.
So hopefully, because I'd love to have another chance to watch them. The only time I've seen them live, which was Caroline's first concert when she was like 6 and she fell asleep halfway through Hall & Oates. Tears for Fears opened at Bridgestone. And so I didn't even get to see like You Make My Dreams Come True as a final encore. I had to take her home.
Well, they better hurry up. I mean, John Oates is 77 years old. Daryl Hall's 78. So better hurry up.
Really?
Yeah.
Dude, John Oates looks like he's about 58. Dude is ripped.
77 years old.
Damn. Good job, John Oates.
Have to get him back on the show.
We will.
Been a couple years since he's been on,
bro.
Yeah,
damn.
Absolutely. Oh man. Again, taking your thoughts on the Titans because this is a sports show. 615-737-1025. Our phone number 615-737-1025. It was interesting going through the waiver wire part of this. So, TD talked about edge rusher, defensive line. He was really strong on corner about how that could be something that the Titans take a look at here. I will be interested to see, like today, how much does the 53-man roster shuffle for the Titans, and how much do they look at the bottom part of their roster right now and say, you know what, we're not very happy with this. I think we could upgrade here with some guys that are out there and available. How much does it churn today, I guess is the question.
Yeah. The guys who should know that they're right around the bottom of the roster should feel very uncomfortable today. I'm going to make Chase, if you're listening, I got a hot take.
No boy.
Chase, it's hot. It's a take and it's hot. I think the Titans are, maybe it's not that hot. I think the Titans are going to pick up three players today. Okay. And they will replace 3 guys who yesterday, quote unquote, were on the 53. Well, I'm going with 3.
Yeah, that'd
That's
probably be how that works if they pick up 3 guys today.
Yes. Yes, thank you.
They will pick up 3 guys, and then they will replace 3 other ones.
See how that works?
Yeah.
I even weaved in some math for you.
Good stuff there. Really good stuff there on that front. Hey.
So anyway, Hall & Oates, my favorite song.
Yeah. Good stuff there. I mean, look, the other part of it, we talked about, they brought in some lower level guys this offseason, brought in a lot of them, right? It clearly felt like they were trying to like find a diamond in the rough. And it just doesn't really feel like they did that with the roster. So now turning the attention in the waiver wire, like, can you find one of those guys that, again, you're hoping you're not coming in and is just an everyday starter for you, because the odds of you finding that in the waiver wire are not high. But can you find some guys on the waiver wire that provide an upgrade in depth? Because, we focus so much on their starters, but this is the National Football League. There are going to be some injuries that they deal with throughout the course of the year. And as we pointed out earlier in the show, other than probably safety and maybe some of the offensive line, maybe, they are not very well equipped to deal with that as presently constructed.
Yeah, I've kind of been talked into corner being maybe and TD said it first earlier, being like a position where you can see some urgency. I think some of their pickups they have not been Trey Avery level pickups. And so I feel like that's really I would bet on a corner. And then, the running back thing's interesting, but I think the trenches too, just like TD said, maybe especially on the defensive side of the ball, it just feels like they should be able to. I heard Trevor Maddich saying this on DVD yesterday. They should be able to absolutely upgrade their depth up front defensively with a snap of finger. I think there's several options that could upgrade them there. So I would look for that. I think the defensive side of the ball probably gets more work done.
615-737-1025, our phone number, 615-737-1025.
Hey, Robbie, can I say just one thing? Because apparently that was Kenny the mailman who was pretending to be Adam, and he says, as he's posted 4 straight times, that you look like an Amish.
For it again. Yeah, it's not Kenny the mailman either.
It's not Kenny the mailman, but it's not Big Joe's number. Who is this?
I don't know. It ain't Kenny
but anyway,
the mailman.
He said you look like an Amish Slim Jim, which is pretty special. That's pretty sweet.
And anything that says Slim attached to me, I will take, which I don't think is entirely accurate, but I'll take it. Thank you. An Amish Slim Jim.
Exactly. Yeah, it's better than a big pile of biscuits. Describes my physique.
We'll continue to take your thoughts on the Titans. We got somebody screaming at us about not talking enough college football, which we talked about for an hour today. We'll also take your thoughts on that too, if you want to. Robby and Rexrode, 102.5 The Game. Tune in for the Bruschetta Bourbon Music City Grand Prix race on 102.5 The Game this Sunday. Coverage beginning at 1 o'clock and is brought to you by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. The final segment of the day here on Robby and Rexrode. Robbie Stanley alongside Ian Safar here with you on this Wednesday morning. The 53-man roster is set. We've gotten your thoughts on that throughout the show today. Really, the one big surprise was James Prochet not making the team. And it's not like that's some massive surprise. We wondered, would they keep 6? Would they keep 7?
Seven's a lot for wide receivers.
For wide receivers. So they've gone with 6 at the moment. And then we'll see if Prochet gets back through on the practice squad. And if he does, do the Titans elevate him in week 1 to be the punt returner against Denver? Does DK eventually garner enough confidence from the coaching staff where they feel good about him being in that role? So a couple things to keep your eye on there. Xavier Restrepo did not make the team. We'll see if he ends up on the practice squad or if he gets claimed somewhere. My guess is he will not, and he will end up back on the Titans practice squad. So a couple things to keep an eye on that front. But, again, we talked so much the last few days, Ian, about the 53-man roster and now the waiver wire. And at the end of the day, this is really focused on the bottom part of your roster. And I think that we lose sight of that a lot in this discussion.
That hopefully these guys you're hoping won't have major impact or playing time this season.
I mean, if they do, it either means a really good story for them or things have gone very poorly for you.
Yeah.
So that's typically what this time of year means. But here we are, the waiver wire, we'll see. I think Joe said 3 is what his expectation looks like.
Put out yesterday, he's expecting, or teams are expecting the Titans to make several moves. Today. A little bit of a move right now, not involving the Titans, but there has been an NFL trade. The Panthers are trading wide receiver Adam Thielen to Minnesota in exchange for, some late pick swaps, 5th round pick and some, so pretty much nothing. But the Vikings are bringing back Adam Thielen.
So Thielen going back to Minnesota. Last year, Thielen, 48 catches, 615 yards, and 5 touchdowns in 10 games. And remember, Minnesota's going to start the year without Jordan Addison with a suspension.
And Jefferson's been banged up.
Jefferson's been banged up a little bit. Now, it looks like Jefferson will be ready to go by week 1, but still bringing in a veteran presence there at wide receiver with Adam Thielen, who, is 35 now. He turned 35 a few days ago. I don't know how much more he's got left in the tank. Cool to see him go back to Minnesota there, but had a really nice year with Carolina 2 years ago where he caught 100 balls for 1,000 yards and 4 touchdowns. And then last year kind of looked like what you expect the 34-year-old wide receiver to look back, and injuries were a part of it as well.
Should be good for J.J. McCarthy, though.
Yeah.
In Minnesota. He'll need some extra veteran help. Probably be a good security blanket there for him. So, yeah. So I guess there's still a few moves being made around. So, not just waiver claims, maybe a few late-round trades here still to go.
Well, and do the Titans have any interest in that? Is there somebody out there that they'd be willing to give up a later round pick for? I mean, much beyond that, I don't have any interest in, I know when the Brian Robinson Jr. stuff was floating around, it was like, could the Titans give up a 4th round pick? I was like, no, do not do that. You're not in a spot right now where you need to be giving up 4th round picks for running backs. And he ended up going to San Francisco. So don't get yourself involved in any of that. But, this is a process here beyond just the quarterback part of it, which is clearly the most important part. Go look at the Titans 53-man roster yesterday. And Ian, probably the biggest thing that stood out to me was, this is going to be a multi-year process to get this thing churned back around to where you feel good about not only the starters, but the depth that you've got with it. They're still a ways away.
Yep. And they decided to go with Jahad Ward and Jalen Harrell as far as their outside linebacker depth, some of the rotational guys. So they kept 5 there. And they did keep the 5 safeties. They kept Mike Brown and Quandre Diggs. Weren't sure if both were going to make it, but I guess they found some special teams. And 11 for the offensive line, kind of a big number. You're keeping 3 backup tackles as far as Crenshaw, Dixon, hyphenated there, Ojokwu, OJ, and Udo.
Yeah.
So you have 3. I'm not sure who they would have in line as your swing tackle right now. Perhaps it's Udo, and you get rid of
Jalen Duncan.
Duncan. and you're bringing in Crenshaw Dixon. Maybe there's a little bit of a swap there. You see some upside. So one thing I have been thinking about when it comes to the offensive line and the signing of Dan Moore Jr. as a veteran, as your left tackle, and what the impact Bill Callahan, big coach, can have on an offensive lineman after he's a veteran.
Yeah.
He's been with the same team since he got drafted. You go to a new team, you find a new positional coach and someone like Brian Callahan. Is there something there that he can find a way to bring Dan Moore's game to another level?
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, look, they're paying him a lot of money, and I know that was the going rate for finding a starting left tackle on the open market. But
so I'm kind of optimistic that maybe he can be consistent, and that maybe Bill Callahan can kind of throw a few extra pointers in there.
Look, the word is in camp that he looked pretty good. So that's
we
encouraging.
heard nothing about him.
Yeah, which is great.
Yeah, he played in the preseason, and we were not complaining one time.
Yeah, I mean, the only time I really
saw
him was like when he got
hurt,
dinged up, and I was like, oh no, please don't be hurt.
Last thing we need. And so, yeah, so far I think all signs are pointing pretty good on that one.
Yeah, well, hopefully it stays that way in the regular season. Again, we talked about Warren Sharp the other day. They did like his front seven analysis, and he took away Denver as the number 2 front seven in all of football. So it's a stiff test that the Titans are going to be going up against in week 1. We got Charles Robinson on the show tomorrow from Yahoo Sports. We'll get into all things NFL with him. Shout out to Heather Stanley and Allison Stanley who are listening on their way to the zoo right now.
Oh, beautiful day for
Allison,
the zoo. How about
love
that?
It. Absolutely. Jake is coming up next on Next Man Up. We'll see you tomorrow at 6 a.m. 102.5 The Game.